A bit of a linguistics nerd. Register is a really big topic because it's something you don't really think about, and people have a lot of ideas about language that aren't necessarily true. I use the term register a lot in my class, actually. A bit of a linguistics nerd. English is so interesting because it has so much vocabulary, and we have so much vocabulary because English ate so many other languages. English starts from Germanic. We got a lot of French vocabulary from 1066 when Mr. Norman came and invaded us. And then we got a bunch of Latin and Greek vocabulary during the Enlightenment in the 17 and 18 and into the 1900s, I believe. My history's bad. So another classic example is like cow or beef. Cow is the Germanic, but beef is the Norman, which is now French. And the reason that it's because of that, it's also sociolinguistic, because the French, when they invaded Britain, or what was Britain, when they invaded that isle, they were the ones who were rich enough to be eating, which is why their word for that animal became the one for the food, while the Germanic one is just for the animal. There's these class differences in the different groups. But then Latin and Greek, that was more because of the scientists who were incorporating all this Latin and Greek words from the 17 and 1800s. It was more like intentional, we took those words. But anyway, my point here is that we have so much vocabulary for so many different kinds of words. We have lots of synonyms, and often the way that we differentiate these synonyms is by this concept of register. It's the idea that different terms carry a different feeling to them. Often some feel a bit more formal or academic or elevated, while others might feel a bit more casual or down to earth. So what I just mentioned, all these different kinds of terms in English we call it etymology. I think I've seen in Chinese it's called 词源学. I'm not really sure, but it's like where these words come from. So an example I learned in my etymology class back in college, you have these three pairs of words: a holy fire, a sacred flame, and a consecrated conflagration. These three pairs all mean the same thing. Holy fire, though, is Germanic. Sacred flame is French origin, and consecrated conflagration is Latin. You can really feel that these three different phrasings have a different feeling, even though they all basically mean the same thing. It's like a little silly example, but these three words have different kinds of registers. And register is a really big topic because it's just about how we think about the ways different people speak, our judgments about that stuff. I think it's a very interesting topic because it's something you don't really think about, and people have a lot of ideas about language that aren't necessarily true. Normally I mention it in my first class as a vocabulary word, and often I just use it when I explain two different words, like, oh, this word is higher register or this word is lower register, because sometimes it's just the easiest way to explain, like, oh, this word maybe is not appropriate to use in the workplace. It's more appropriate between your friends. It's a bit more lower register, because it's a very easy way to quickly explain these differences. And register, I think, is a really helpful way to understand how to differentiate between different kinds of synonyms and how to differentiate between different terms in English, because when you speak in a higher register, if you suddenly drop a low register word, it's going to really stand out to native speakers. But basically, it's just a lot of different sociolinguistic processes. At different moments, we incorporated, or different words were forced onto groups that were speaking English, and so the language has evolved a lot because of that. And that's what I think really makes it difficult to learn, but I think it makes English really fun and poetic, is that we have so many different words, so we can really express a whole universe of meaning.